There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
You know, terms like plug and play and OE integration are catchphrases that have been quite loosely used in the industry over the last few years. But here we are on the CMA Network's OEM integration session series, and we're quite serious because we have serious brands that take this very seriously. Match is a division of Audio-Tech Fisher, which specializes in providing solutions to upgrade sound with the minimum of installation effort. We've got their product expert, Chris Van Rye, in the studio with us today to tell us exactly what you need to know to be the next integration specialist in your area. This is CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. Match, and it starts now. Thanks for tuning in, guys, to another CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. And as we are talking about OEM integration, we've come across a brand which has been obviously making waves in the DSP side of things, amplification, and they have an OEM integration wing or a sub-brand called Match. Now, Match, distributed across North America by our friends at MSC, has been gaining a lot of traction because they are coming up with some brilliant solutions to get and solve some interesting problems that we're seeing in our base. Now, if you're a dealer that is already deeply involved in OEM integration, then you probably already heard of Match. And they've got some big announcements today, including some new product that you definitely want to stay tuned for. On the other hand, if you're a dealer that's been thinking about OEM integration and how, what type of solutions actually exist out there so that you could, A, install and integrate into these systems, but also be profitable doing so. Match believes they have the solution for you. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and connect with our friends at MSC. I believe Chris is in Calgary today. Chris Van Rye, who is their technical sales support specialist. What's going on, Chris?
Just another day in paradise, Ben.
Another day in paradise. Chris, we're talking clutch words, OEM integration, plug and play. These are, like I said at the top of the show, unfortunately, terms that have been loosely used in the past. But make no mistake, the German company Audio-Tech Fisher is not fooling around when it comes to using these terms.
No, it's a huge portion of what we do, and it is a very, very R&D intensive category and program for us. It carries through when we're looking at these things. A lot of what guys are dealing with, we have DSP technologies, we have integration technologies. They aren't the same. They can overlap, they can exist in the same product, but those two terms are very unique things that have to be respected as such. And for us, when it comes to that OEM integration side of things, it carries every bit the weight that our DSP category does for us, is making sure we can get into all of these new cars so that you can use the tool in the DSP to actually deliver the end results. But that integration side, without that, none of the rest of it matters.
Oh, understood. And, I feel it's very important that dealers understand, we're talking about sound system upgrades in an OE environment. Yes, of course, there are speakers. Yes, of course, there are amplifiers. And to your point, there's DSP. But there's a whole other suite of accessories around that have been developed specifically to help you get that job done, get into that vehicle in as seamless a fashion as possible. Now, did I get that right, Chris? Maybe we should just officially clear that up. Audio-Tech Fisher is the parent brand, and Match is kind of like the OE integration wing of that brand?
Yeah, so Match in particular is all about getting into cars as unintrusively as possible. Small footprint chassis, plug and play harness connections that allow you to tie into it without modifying any of the vehicle wiring. That gets you your inputs, your output channels. Make sure you don't have to spend a time worrying about things like polarity and all of that kind of stuff along with it. So we're able to get in there and really make efficient work of talking to a huge range of new cars.
New cars, which is a big thing. And, we're talking to a market that, yes, represents new cars or slightly new cars. So many, especially in the luxury vehicle category, so many cars popping up in, those recently 2, 3, 4-year-old range, very popular, especially with the shortage these days. So, guys, if you're not like paying attention to that, and I'll be surprised if customers aren't already, coming to you with these type of vehicles, you've come to the right show because we've got some solutions to show you. All right, Chris, we're going to set them up with a little video. In case they didn't know who Audio Tech Fisher was, let's establish the baseline. And from there, we'll dive right into all the solutions that Match has. We'll be right back.
Sounds great, Ben.
Audio Tech Fisher Match Plug and Play line has been designed to retrofit exceptional sound quality in almost every car model.
Our Match Plug and Play concept consists out of a few very easy to install components which improve the sound quality tremendously.
The installation is ingeniously simple. Just remove the head unit from the dashboard to get access to the radio harness and unplug the radio connectors. Depending on the type of vehicle, you probably require a car-specific adapter, which you can find on our website. Connect the adapter to car wire harness. If your car is equipped with an ISO system connector, the additional adapter isn't needed. Means that you can directly plug in the PP-ISO cable that is included in delivery of the amp. The connector, which is designated for the heat unit, has to be plugged into the radio. Properly route the PP-ISO cable through the panel to the mounting location of the match amplifier. Once the cable is in place, reinstall the removed cover panels. Insert the connector of the PP-ISO cable into the corresponding jack of the match amplifier. Take care that the amplifier is properly fixed to the car. Plug the provided subwoofer connection cable into the amplifier and the subwoofer. Now download the appropriate sound setup for your car from the Audio Tech Fisher website and copy it to a micro SD card. Insert the micro SD card into the card slot of the match amplifier. It only takes a couple of seconds until the setup is transferred. Once the control LED lights up orange, please remove the SD card. After finalizing the setup, the new match sound system is perfectly adapted to the interior acoustics of your car. Note that any match plug and play installation can be removed from your car without leaving any traces.
Some incredibly important points brought up by that from that video. Love the Instabase. The Instabase is awesome. The Instabase is great. Listen, we have a presentation. I mean, there's a lot to cover here. They made that look super easy, and guess what? It kind of is. I'm just, spoiler alert. It kind of is that easy. But why don't we go ahead and set up? I know you've taken some time, Chris, to kind of put together some case study scenarios I think will really help our dealers understand and grasp, the spirit of what this is all about. And of course, I'll be here to ask some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So the match lineup is really cool. It is a complete series from top to bottom. So it has the integration aspects built into the amplifier. The DSP is built into the amplifier. We've got the harnessing to integrate into a ton of different vehicles, whether they tee into base audio systems or even into a lot of these newer premium audio systems where we have to go post amplifier. Harnessing available for all of those guys. And then from there, we've got a plug and play speaker solution for a wide range of vehicles as well. almost all BMW products from 2005 to today, we've got direct replacements on those. And then Mercedes, the new platform on Mercedes-Benz, we've attacked that as well and given a lot of great solutions across a huge range of those models as well. So with those guys, I mean, those European models are a huge category for us. BMW's been around for a long time. Lots of guys have some experience with these things. But it wasn't until about 2019 that the curveball got thrown at us. One of the big things that changed was the old style was either Harman Kardon that used the MOST 25 network in it, or the Hi-Fi or Bass Audio, which was just a simple analog audio system. They were really easy to integrate with and get in there and tuck everything away. And there wasn't a lot of challenges to that. These newer generation cars have gone to what they call the RAM platform. What that's done is actually integrated the radio module now alongside the amplifier. So there is no removing the amplifier like there was in the previous platform. So there's a lot more challenges, and we have to do things differently in these newer BMWs, and that's spread through almost the entire range now. So it's not what we're used to on that side of things. So we had to come up with new integration solutions for talking to these different vehicles. So number one, we had the speakers that still fit in all of the current fitments that work in those cars for tweeters, mid-range, the woofers underneath the seats in those cases. All of that kind of stuff is still compatible, no problem. But the big trick here is actually coming in and working with harnessing solutions, allowing us to actually come in and tie into these vehicles. So we have RAM specific harnesses that will actually let us go through now and tie in post amplifier in these. It gives us all of our inputs, all of our output connections here, even in the Harman Kardon system that has a secondary amp driving the underseat woofers. We actually have all of our connections for those guys as well. So these now are going to give you everything you need to get in on the vehicle side. And then you have our match specific connectors available. So these on the other end of the harness are going to plug straight into the amplifier designed to work with the package. So in the Harman Kardon systems, where we've got 9 channels of factory amplification, we partner that with our UP10 amplifier. That allows us to actually go through, increase the power dramatically on the speakers, on the woofers underneath the seat, allows us to go through and have a full DSP control to tie in and optimize the acoustics inside the vehicle, whether they be the factory speakers or the aftermarket. But more importantly, again, on the integration side of things, it has all the tools required there. Our unique ADEP circuit allows us to actually get in and show the factory amplifiers correct loads so they don't see errors or faults or shut down the audio outputs, the automatic turn-on circuits, all of the input signal analyzer tools that are built in. So we can actually see what's coming into our amplifier, whether it be frequency response or phase or anything like that. It gives us everything we need to see what's happening before we get the signal so we can make sure we're doing the best job after the fact and delivering that to the customer at the end of the day.
I want to comment here real quick, Chris, or before you go too
please.
far with that. You know, you show those harnesses. Man, those harnesses are absolutely clutch when it comes to integrating, because there's no wire splicing. Everything clicks together. It's even professionally loomed. You know what I mean? It looks like I want to point that out. It looks like a factory harness. And even the amplifiers are specifically designed to work with these harnesses. So it's not like we're taking a universal or pre-existing product and, for lack of a better term, jimmy rigging it to make it work into a BMW system. No. These systems are designed specifically to work with one another with the components that we're discussing.
Absolutely. And I mean, on the harness side of things itself, you commented that they look like OEM pieces. Well, that's the point, is we've gone through and we've got the fabric tape wrapped around these guys twisted, just like all the European manufacturers do. All of the wiring that we're using, if you can see in here, is all twisted pairs, just like the OEMs would do with their speaker lines. The coolest part to me, though, is above and beyond what we've done, is all of the wiring that's in here is actually sourced from the exact same company that supplies the German auto manufacturers. So this physical wire itself that's in here is the same wire that's used throughout the rest of the BMW, the Mercedes, the Porsche, the Audi, whatever it may be. This is the same cable that they're using. It's built to the same standard. It's got the same capabilities in terms of flex and running and all of that kind of stuff. This is not just a cheap off-the-shelf harness somewhere. These were specifically engineered to look and act the part in the cars that you're working on. And then, like you said, on the amplifier side of things, our current kind of lineup in this match series of amplifiers was built from what was originally the UP7 BMW. It was an amplifier built from the ground up specifically to integrate integrate into BMW's 2005 to 2021 hi-fi system. So all the technology that we had developed for that, for optimizing things like the underseat woofers and our center channel up mixer, all the things that we had done specifically for that amp are what has led to the rest of this series really coming to life. So like you said, this is not universal products adapted in or made to work in there. This whole program is built from the ground up with one design and one end result in mind, as that is to successfully deliver great sounding cars without compromise.
Is this visual that we have up here, Chris, basically a representation of the vast majority of the setup from an OE perspective on BMW?
Yeah, this is a hugely common configuration from an electrical standpoint across a wide range of cars. But BMW, so what you're looking at there is the 2005 to 2021 hi-fi system, covered off a huge percentage of the cars in North America. Something in excess of 60% of all the cars that came in used this. It was the premium audio system in 1 and 2 series, mid-level in 3s, 4s, and then 5, 6s, and 7s all use this as their standard package. So this is super common to come across. This is the basic layout where you've got that mid-range and tweet in the front doors, mid-range or coax design in the back doors. You've got a center channel. You've got 2 8-inch underseat woofers in there, and then the amplifier tucked in the back corner, typically on the left-hand side of the car. And that's SUVs and sedans and coupes and all of that kind of stuff. So this is what you're looking at is very, very common and by far the most common layout that we and our dealers are dealing with out there. But even in the newer cars, as we've gone to this Ram platform, they've changed the electronics, but the basic speaker layout and the basic design of the audio system is exactly the same as it was.
All right, very cool.
So from there, the other side of things that we do a lot of is, of course, the Mercedes platform. So same concept, very similar layout electrically, where they're using a mid-range and tweet or just a wideband type 4-inch in the doors. Rear speakers, they've moved that 8-inch woofer up into the firewall, so it's more ahead of you than under you. Center channel location in there, and then in the premium audio packages, in a lot of cases, they're adding a surround on the rear deck or in the D pillars of the vehicle as well. So same kind of concept when you're attacking these cars is we've got things that we need to be respectful of on the factory side. In the Mercedes, in some of them, we've got things like most connectivity to work with, so we can look to digital most preamps like NavTV or Mobridge, both support the Mercedes platform. But there are some options where there's some cars where that's not necessarily available for them. So making sure that we've got the integration tools available to get into those things. Again, measure that factory amplifier, see the audio signal that's going on in there, tune it up, output it to the new speakers. And again, this is fully supported via harnessing, being pre-built configuration files from Audio Tech Fisher. So all your input and output routing can be set just by simply downloading the file and loading it in there and giving you that huge head start to efficiently get these cars out the door. And a lot of these new Mercedes, we have solutions for the brand new platforms as well. So integrating into the new most over coax that Bremister has used in the last couple of years, and the real premium models like the S and GLS class and the new E and GLE platforms. With these guys here, we've got the option to go post amplifier when we're using something like our Up 10 DSP. Gives us all the inputs we need to tie into the Burmester system. And then if we've got coax, we can go preamp, where all of our match amplifiers also have this put. So when we've got preamp options, it's Toslink in, it's one connection, and we're off and running with a great audio signal to start with. But like I said, in the match lineup, they are built to give you the versatility to work in numerous applications, be able to adapt all kinds of different technologies into these new cars.
Question, Chris.
Yeah.
In the video that we saw right before we started with your presentation, and you just mentioned it now, is you go on the website and you download the configuration file, put on an SD card. We saw how that works. Just to be, for clarity purposes, that is a configuration file. This has nothing to do with the DSP settings, correct?
So yes and no. So the first step when we're configuring any of our DSP products is we have to tell the amplifier what's going on with the electrical signal. What do we have for inputs? Where are they going in terms of the output? So how are we managing that flow through the amplifier and through the DSP? So our lineup of configuration files are going to take care of all of that. So when you're working with one of our harnesses, all of these are pinned in a certain way so that the amplifier is getting inputs and outputs. These Harman Kardon systems where we're dealing with 9 channels, that setup is going to be there to make sure that your front left in is actually going to your front left out, and your rears and your subwoofers and all of that kind of stuff. So those configuration files are preset for these harnesses. So there is no guesswork. You don't have to do any testing. Plug it in, grab that configuration and load it in. Now, from a customization standpoint and configuring and tuning the car, that's where you're going to come in and still work your salt and pepper. You're going to go through and use the tools that we've got in there of your time alignment, and then get into equalization, whether you're using our standard auto set version or the new Tune EQ automatic parametric configuration to get that car dialed in for the customer. And then even from there, you get into the real cool features like our center channel up mixer and our bass augmentation processing as well. So all of that stuff, that salt and pepper, the tailoring to what your customer's looking for and delivering your signature sound into that project is all still open and totally customizable for you. This just gets the hard work out of the way.
Perfect. All right.
So those 2 platforms are really thoroughly developed and full featured across the board, and lead us into kind of the stuff that these things are built around. And that really comes into evolving around these amplifiers. These amplifiers with built-in DSP, and making sure that these are the things that are really going to make night and day improvements in those audio systems. With the cool part about this, just like all of our DSP devices, is anything Audio-Tech Fisher DSP is all built in Germany. So these aren't off the shelf, these aren't offshore, these are our own tailored designs built to do exactly what we want to do. And one of my favorite things that this company does, and how seriously they take this, and this isn't a Match thing or a Helix thing or a Brax thing, this is everything that they do, that they build in their own house in Germany, is what you see on the screen here in the presentation, is everyone gets tested. Not 1 in 10, not 1 in 100, not 1 in 5. Every single electronic product built in Germany gets put through the audio precision meter to make sure that it's meeting specifications. There's no faults, there's no problems, there's no spec out of component, there's no limitations to anything. Every unit gets tested thoroughly top to bottom before it gets put in a box and shipped out around the world. So when it comes to things like going to present this product to a customer and then delivering on what you've promised to them, you know that the Audio-Tech Fisher product is going to guarantee that end result for you. You're going to have everything you need to do it.
I'm going to make a comment here, Chris.
Yeah.
There are a lot of brands that are in this space. This is certainly something you've touched on that is very unique, and I want to highlight that with Audio-Tech Fisher. When Chris says that every DSP product is coming out of the German factory, I don't want our viewers to think that Match is like the entry-level product for Audio-Tech Fisher. Match is the OEM integration arm, I suppose, is the best way I can explain it, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, of Audio-Tech Fisher. Because although this might look like a compact, small box, small chassis, it's getting the treatment like the Brax amplifier gets treated. It's getting the same testing that the Helix, DSP integrated amplifiers are getting. So know that, this is a top level, what they would like to call car hi-fi in Europe. They love calling it car hi-fi. And that's really what I want to get across here. Match is a premium German-made solutions suite for OEM integration.
Absolutely, and that's spot on. A lot of guys think that the Match, it's the small stuff, so it's the entry level side. Mm-hmm. It is so much more than that. It is just built with a different purpose in mind, and that purpose has nothing less to do with sound quality and performance. It's about small footprint. It's about being able to hide it into cars. It's about being unintrusive when it comes to wiring and integrating these systems into different vehicles. But a lot of what we see through the rest of the line was developed right here in Match. I touched a little bit on it with the Up7 BMW being kind of the testing ground for our FX tab of features, our proprietary algorithm up mixer, our stage processing, our bass processing, all of that stuff was originally developed for a Match product. And now that's something that is extended through the entire rest of the line, all the way to Helix's brand new P6 Ultimate, up to Brax DSP and every step in between. This is nothing to do with stepping down. This is about building things with a different purpose in mind, but getting the exact same attention to detail and functionality that we see everywhere else.
All right.
So that's where we kind of we touch on the UP7 a little bit in there, and that's where we want to go next. Is the exciting thing that we've just had happen and that we're finally happy to have in our hands here is the replacement for what has without question been one of the best selling products in the lineup over the last handful of years, and that was the UP7, both in the BMW platform and the DSP. So the UP7 in its BMW platform continues on unchanged, but here we have just fresh off the plane to us is the very first of the UP8 DSP. So we've taken that exact same UP7 DSP success story that we've been working with for all these years and brought it into the latest technologies that we've developed in the second generation. So this guy has now gone, obviously the model number designates an extra channel in there. So this is now 8 channels of total power in this guy. Still staggered. We've got 65 watts by 6, totally configurable in any way we want. And then we've got our 160 by 2 channel pairs for mid-bass drivers, underseat woofers, or getting into using those 2 channels to get working together on a dual 2-ohm voice coil sub to deliver north of 300 watts to the real energy part of the audio system. So really excited to have these guys. Not only have we gotten more outputs, we've actually gotten more inputs as well. That UP7 only had 4 inputs on it. It was really good in a lot of applications, but these days we need more. So this has actually allowed us to go to 6 channels of input on this guy. But even one step further, just like the vast majority of our DSP products, is we have the ability to add additional things to it, additional sources. One of those sources is our MEC analog card. So it actually allows us to add 2 channels of stereo of input to these guys, where we can now go through and add up to 30 volts. So if we're dealing with some of these new cars like the new BMWs that have really high power woofer channels, we've got the ability to feed those in here, take full advantage of them without issue or concern. But now with those extra inputs, we have 8 channels in, 8 channels out. So we have the ability to do what's called one-to-one routing on these. So when we're dealing with cars that have up mixers, all pass filters, various polarity changes, all the things that OEMs are doing with DSP technology, we have the ability to go through and retain as much or as little of that as we want. We've got total customization with these guys now. So having the UP8 has really opened up that product that's been so successful to this point, and it's going to allow you to fill even more holes and even more voids in the marketplace and with different vehicles with these guys. Super tiny footprint, as you can see on these, really easy to work with, really easy to hide. It's the exact same size as the UP7 was, so just the absolute amazing engineering work of that team and their ability to jam that much more stuff into that exact same box that we're used to. Even the DSP side of things has become more advanced. This is now the full suite ACO processor. We've got the ability to get in and have our virtual channel connectivity on these guys. We now have our input signal analyzer. So again, when we've got these factory systems, we don't need to hook up a bunch of extra tooling and RTAs on the bench to see what's going on. That input signal analyzer is built right into our PC tool software and now gives you the ability to actually measure frequency response, phase, and compare channels to look for things like all pass filters in there. All of that stuff is done in the device that you're installing in the car. It's not extra tools on the bench. It's not a bunch of extra prep work. You can put the system into the vehicle, integrate all the signals, and then actually look at what's going on and make educated decisions on how you're going to deliver the best end result to the consumer.
So we're talking 6 in, 8 out with an additional 2 on the analog side. So technically an 8 in, 8 out. That is a very unassuming black box. I'm telling you right now, it is so understated of the power that it has. So first of all, congratulations. And, you know, I am always appreciative of when new products are being launched on our platform. I do appreciate that. And that's the first time anybody's seeing a real UP8 DSP, which you're right. I certainly think is going to be a huge success. From the technology standpoint, is there any differences between the 7 and the 8 other than the channels?
So we've got, like I'd mentioned, the DSP side of things has been heavily developed and updated and modernized on that side of things. Higher voltage inputs on those guys. Power supply technology is still using our step up platform, making sure that we've got a ton of efficiency in there, making sure that we're still keeping everything nice and cool as we need to. That is a fully regulated power supply as well, so that when we're looking into, again, new cars, especially things like BMW that use intelligent alternators, these cars, just because it's on doesn't mean that thing is actually spinning. In a lot of cases, we had a client here on our retail side a couple of years ago who had a new 5 Series, and he found that he bought the car. We did an audio system and a radar detector immediately before he even took delivery of it. And as he was driving the car over the first few weeks, he was finding that the car was actually dying every few days. So one of the problems he was running into is that alternator wasn't turning on because his drive to work was actually only about 5 minutes. So it wasn't enough time to get that car wound up. So having things like that we have to deal with in the real world, voltage swings and transitions in cars and what they're doing with battery voltage, is becoming more and more complex. So having amplifiers and DSPs that can react to that situation and still deliver the same smile to the client, no matter what else is going on the other end, is a huge, huge aspect to these upgrades. One of the other concepts that we deal with constantly, and we just had a dealer battle with this with another brand recently, is start-stop technologies, where all of these cars shut off at the red lights. They shut off for efficiency. That's the end of it. Now, at that point, we know the voltage is going to drop, but the big concern is when the car cranks and restarts. Every time that car cranks, voltage dips even harder. And what a lot of manufacturers are seeing, or what a lot of dealers are seeing with a variety of manufacturers, is that when that car cranks to restart, his system is turning off. His amplifiers are dropping out because there's not enough voltage there. It's one of the things we do across our entire line, but again, designed on this Match platform, was our start-stop technology. We can actually have the vehicle dip as low as 6 volts for up to 5 seconds without having the amplifier or the DSP shut down. Just like his factory system, through that start-stop process, his audio system is going to stay on and continue to operate unaffected by the whole thing. We all know that if a client comes in and spends a handful or more of thousands of dollars on an audio upgrade, and the second he gets to the first red light, it drops out for 3 seconds, it might put a little bit of a sour taste in his mouth. So those are the kinds of things when we talk about an integration category, it's not just about high level inputs. It is about so much more, and giving the exact same experience that the client has with their factory equipment, but with the benefits that we've just put in there.
And, this is going to be a consistent message that I continue to repeat as we go through these OEM integration sessions. And that is, integration is about adding features, not taking away.
Exactly.
Customers do not appreciate you exchange. Oh, but you're going to get this, but you're going to lose this. No, that's not our job, because the tools are there and Match is proof of it. We do not need to sacrifice any features. All we need to do is integrate into it so that we can do our jobs in improving that final thing, which is the sound.
Not many people walk into our stores and say they want less stuff in their car, or they want something that performs worse.
No,
they want it better. And exactly your point, Ben.
All right.
So the Up8, very exciting new product. These guys have just landed in-house. We've got a stack of dealers that have these guys on back order, so these are going to be showing up in dealers' hands within the next day or two here. So we're really excited to get these things out in the field.
Perfect. Up8 DSP. Boom.
So from there we get into kind of some of the recognition. This is not a new product category for us. This is not a new lineup. We've been doing Match for a very long time with a heavy focus on, like I said, integrating into cars and making sure everything operates at its best. We've had a ton of acknowledgement over the years for that. The team at Audio Tech Fisher have done an incredible job and have been awarded with, up until this year, they had 12 awards in 10 years for their products, 4 of which in the last handful of years specifically for Match category products. This year we landed 2 more, one on the Helix side of things, and 1 more that directly affects all of these Match products that we're talking about today, and that is actually getting into our PC Tool 5. This is that gateway that lets you get into these amplifiers and use all of this DSP technology. The advancements that the team have made developing this software, bringing it to life, making it more capable, but even easier to use, was acknowledged by more than 60 industry professionals from 29 countries who voted to come up with the fact that PC Tool 5 is an absolute statement in performance and functionality. And I just wanted to take a second to throw a congratulations out to the team in Germany for earning that, because we're fortunate enough to deal with PC Tool every single day here, and the feedback that we get from our dealers and the success that we're seeing them having with that was a huge testament on PC Tool 4 and the capabilities that were there, but 5 pushed this thing over the top, and to see them earn this kind of recognition was something that I wanted to just take a minute and touch on, because if you haven't had a chance to use PC Tool 5 and the automatic time measurements and the tune EQ functionality and all of the tools that are built in there to make lives easier, you are missing out. There's nothing like this one.
2 comments. Number 1, if you're interested and you want to find out more, because Chris is, pouring his heart out right now, go back into the archives, get onto cmanetworks.com, do a search for PC Tool or for Audio-Tech Fisher or MSC. We did an entire session on all the new features of PC Tool 5. So that's the first thing I want you to check out. The second thing is that's super important for dealers to understand. Your time will not be wasted learning this tool, because guess what? One platform across all of Audio-Tech Fisher DSP products.
Yeah, that's we're leaning into the match side of things, but that's absolutely a huge point for dealers that have 5 different software versions on their computers, trying to remember which one does what, which DSP has which feature set, and all of that kind of stuff. This is the exact same workflow from every product, from our little Match M5.4, our tiny little OEM footprint guys like these guys here, all the way up into the Up 10s, the V12s, the Brax DSPs, the DSP Pro Mark III, everything. It is the same software, the same interface, the same basic feature set across the board. So your life will not get any easier than you can get it with this product.
Very, very cool. Congrats.
Yeah. So
I know Julian's watching. Julian has to be watching. Julian's always
well, let's he can send me my little bonus check in the mail when he's ready.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so that's the match lineup. It's not a huge category, but it is so well developed.
I think what you mean is it's not a huge. It is a big category, Chris. I'm going to disagree with you.
It's a heavy category. It's not a
simplified it into a small footprint of an offering to make sense.
It's not a huge listing of SKUs. It's not that you need. You don't need dozens and dozens of products in there. There is a handful of really well-developed products that sit in there. And when you sit down and you start to think about the different applications and how you can utilize these tools, you're not going to find very many applications where you're high and dry on these guys. From our little M5.4, this guy here.
Hold on a second. We're going to get Shelton to take down this presentation. Thanks a lot. We'll move forward to our little discussion. Thanks, guys.
So This is the M5.4. This is a 5-channel amplifier, does up to 60 watts by 4, does 160 by 1 on a subwoofer channel, and then has 4 channels of preamp output to go along with it. And you can see the size of this thing. This is ridiculously small. So
Chris, you're the DSP cowboy, first of all, first and foremost. The DSP cowboy rides around Calgary and Alberta every day in a really cool pickup truck. And from what I understand, it pounds pretty hard. But what people don't know, hold that up again. That's what's powering your personal sound system.
Yes, this is the amp I use every single day. This, a little 8-inch woofer, set of components, nice, simple system, active, but with the tools that we've got built in terms of being able to tune the system, optimize the outputs. I had some real fun with this guy. The M5.4 works on our system connector, so all of our T-harnessing and stuff like that. It has 2 different modes. It has a low power and a high power mode. In low power mode, you can actually feed power right from the radio circuit in the vehicle. So it's going to current limit the amplifier to about 15 amps, leaves you about 30 watts per channel, plus that 160 watt subwoofer output. Hold on.
You can't get away that quick. Did you just say that you could use the power from the factory radio to power that amplifier?
Yes. So in the video, they had touched on the PPI-SO harness. So that's a 4-channel in, 4-channel out harness. And then we've got the vehicle T's that go in behind the radio. So that will T in behind the radio, plugs into the ISO harness, and that comes back and feeds the match system connector, which is just on the end here. Now, in a lot of applications, that has power and ground in it as well. So in most cases, in a lot of these cars where we've got a 15 or a 15 amp circuit for the radio side of things, this thing here being limited at 15 amps of total current draw isn't going to, that's only at absolute full volume on a loud recording that's extracting every ounce of power out of it. Not realistic that you're ever actually going to live in that space. So what I wanted to find out is how capable is this? What happens if we hook it up like this, and how's it going to perform? What's that subwoofer going to do? So I teed this in behind the radio. I ran the harness down. I tucked this little guy underneath the seat. And then off the other side of it here, we have our subwoofer connector, and ran that out to one of our enclosed subwoofer systems. So this is a little downfiring 8-inch. Comes with our quick connect on the back side of the enclosure here, so you can actually go through and have a nice little 8-pin harness. Tie this guy in, tuck that underneath the back seat, and off we went. Got the tune and everything done. Drove around for over a year. Windows down, tunes cranked up. Didn't matter if it was, on a rough Tuesday after a long day at the office, or if it was Saturday night with the buddies. Didn't matter which configuration we ran and what we put that system through. Never once did we have a hiccup, a hang up, a blown fuse, nothing. It allowed us to get in there and remove the radio, plug it in, feed the wire, hook the sub up, and we were out. In a car sounds just awesome. It was a riot to listen to. I mean, we're 35 watts a channel. It wasn't going to rattle your bones or shake your fillings loose, but substantially louder than the factory system was. Allowed me through the DSP to go through and time align and EQ. Great tonality, great energy of it, and a system that was put in an hour.
Okay, hold on. I need to gather myself here. All right. So what you're saying is that little black box, 4 channels of power, correct?
5 channels total power.
Okay, 5-channel amplifier, the size of a cigarette pack.
Yep.
You used a T harness to connect it to a factory radio. So click, click, click. Right. Yep. Didn't even need to run power and ground through the firewall to your battery.
Nope.
Used the existing power supply, access through the wiring harness that was already fused at 15 amp, and that amp only draws max 15. So never even did that. Literally plug, threw it behind the radio. I don't even know if you taped it or tie wrapped it or anything. You're a cowboy like that. And then you
I'm not a cowboy like that.
Slept the original radio back in there. And that thing is now powering the original speakers, right? With the 4 channels.
Yeah, in the original configuration.
Right. And so you've added better power to the original speakers.
Yep.
And a dedicated channel to that downfiring 8-inch sub enclosure.
Yep.
I cannot wait. This is why I had to gather myself. Right now, I cannot think of a simpler, more efficient, more basic way to get better sound with the smallest footprint and smallest effort possible than that right there.
Yep, that is exactly what it comes down to. Better power, more output, full DSP capability on these guys.
I'm sorry. And DSP now that DSP is going to affect, it would totally affect the original speaker channels.
Yes.
Because you're using the original speakers.
You're still going to go through and have real crossover set up to limit your, those factory mid-bass drivers in terms of excursion. You're going to be able to go through and acoustically correct the vehicle through equalization, full time alignment side of things. I mean, this little guy here still uses the exact same DSP technology that's all the way up in the brand new Up 8 and DSP Pro Mark III and P6 DSP Ultimate. All of these latest and greatest toys that we've just dropped on everybody are actually right here too. But with this guy here, there's still one more thing that we haven't even touched on yet, and that's expandability. So I had mentioned it's a 5-channel amplifier, but it's also got a 9-channel DSP in this thing. So when you're ready to go from the next step from here, so I've got my current configuration where you're using this as, fronts and rears and then subwoofer. Well, what if we wanted to go through and add a partner to it? So this is the M2.1. This little guy here, exact same footprint and chassis size, but this is 170 by 2 or up to 350 by 1. So with this little guy here, you can now take your 5-channel and go active. So you use this to run your tweeters and your rears and your sub. And then we scale up your mid-bass drivers. We put some real big energy behind those guys there.
You can configure all of that in your DSP.
And then we go one step further. So we've got 160 watts for the sub channel on this, but say that's not enough now. We've scaled up the front end. We want the back end to match that. So we're going to take that 5th channel out of this guy. We're going to reconfigure this to power the center channel. So this is going to now do your center, your tweets, and your rears. You've got one of these guys on your mid-bass drivers, You're going to take another one of these guys and run this on your subwoofer. So now you're going to go from that 160 watts to about 350 to 400 watts to your subwoofer. So now you've got this continuous upgrade path to go
And you
through.
just took up, I don't know, the space of a Kleenex box?
If even that much. So that's the cool part
But
about
hold on. There's a caveat. There's a caveat. Let's be honest. You will have to run power and ground to those amplifiers, though.
Yes, as you're scaling up, obviously you're going to need a little extra. But the cool part is you've got the ability to do some really cool stuff with these and get into cars where modifications aren't okay. You know, we talked about the Mercedes and the BMW. Well, first of all, used cars is a huge market to touch on in that aspect. I mean, there's clients every day that are on the hunt. They're looking for a good used car. They find one that's the color they want. It's got the interior package. It's got the factory wheels they like, but it didn't have the premium audio system in it. Well, no problem. We've got an easy solution to get into those applications. The other side of things is brand new cars. For anybody who hasn't spoken with a car dealership, whether you're shopping or you've got dealer partners that you work with out there, a huge chunk of manufacturers are struggling to get their hands on the components to build premium audio amplifiers. Mercedes-Benz cannot deliver Burmester audio systems in their entry-level cars. They're reserving that stuff for the premium models, which means everybody who's buying a C-Class or a GLC, it's not a cheap car, but they're not getting the audio experience that they're looking for. BMW is doing the same thing, struggling to get Harman Kardon amplifiers. So, and these are applications where you can now go in, upgrade the audio system in a complete fashion. So you're going to upgrade the speakers, you're going to upgrade the power, you're going to give them DSP technology, you're going to dial that system in, you're going to exceed the performance of that Burmester, that Harman Kardon audio system, and you've done it all without modifying the vehicle or causing any concern on the vehicle warranty side of things.
Couple of key points that I want to bring up just before we close this out, Chris. You know, we did get a huge chance to talk about the speakers from Match, but we're talking a whole line of application-specific speakers, especially for BMW and Mercedes. And we're talking, like, when I say application-specific, you know, there's only 3 holes on these speakers. Why? Because they're made to fit, literally replace those speakers in those configurations, as well as the tweeter or whatever else. So maybe speak a little bit to that.
Well, prime example, one of my favorites in the line is this little guy here. So this is the Mercedes center channel. Pretty straightforward, pretty unassuming. Comes with the factory mounts on these guys to allow it to snap in place. So you pop the grill off, speaker comes out, you disconnect it. But one of the things you'll find in the premium audio cars is you have to disconnect 2 different sets of wires on these guys. The new Mercedes, they're using that center channel as it's not only a center speaker for the audio, but they're also using it as the speaker for the SOS package. So for guys that were thinking they were just going to drop in a little 3.5-inch coax and call it a day, that client's going to immediately have an SOS failure light on his dash for all eternity, and then he's not going to have access to that feature set in his car. And as we talked about earlier, when it comes to upgrading cars, it can't be at the expense of existing features in there. So it's the little details. So this guy here, I don't know if you can see, but actually has 2 different speaker connectors on it. So this is going to give you the ability to plug the audio connection in.
Is that 2 different voice coils, Chris?
That's exactly what it is. 2 different voice coils in the same speaker. So now you've got, just like any other dual voice coil speaker out there, but now we've actually configured these for the purpose of 2 different audio inputs. One for the audio signal, so the actual music, and then one for that SOS package. So now we're retaining those features at the same time, making sure that the client's not having errors or faults or anything like that in there, but still giving him that improved audio experience at the same time. Same thing on the other end of the Mercedes, the opposite end of the frequency spectrum is the low frequency side of things. We look at direct replacement subwoofers. So these guys we make available as a single or a dual woofer package. So depending on the car that it's going into, if we're just replacing the single in the first gen base audio systems, no problem, you can. But then we've also got the dual woofer option, so both the driver side and passenger side in there. The cool thing about Mercedes is even in the base audio cars, where they've only put the single woofer in on one side, both locations are there. There's just a blanking plate on the other side. So now you can actually go through and add that in there, run the line. So when you're doing the new woofer system that is molded, contoured, and shaped perfectly to drop in place in there, when we go through and we look at adding something like the Up8 into the mix, we've got those 2 high power channels. Even in that base audio system now, we can add the second woofer and give that client an absolutely deadly low frequency experience.
One final thing before we kind of close this out. So we talked about harnesses, we talked about the PC tools, we talked about the speakers now, and obviously the new update. Little detail I thought was kind of clutch. I mean, when we saw the amplifier for the BMW, I always thought this was a great feature. It actually fits exactly where the original amplifier goes. Not only does it fit there from a space perspective, you use the same bolt with the bracket to go back in.
Yeah, exactly. The Up7 BMW was designed from the ground up specifically for that application, that vehicle package. So they all use the same amplifier, whether, if you've got that 676 BMW audio system in your X5 or your 3 Series or even the Harman Kardon in the 1 and the 2 Series platforms, all use that same amplifier, the same mount, the same harness. So when you drop that side panel down, the amplifier sits right up in behind that quarter panel. Single 10 mil bolt comes off, the amplifier lifts and comes out. You unplug the harness, the factory amp is out. Now the new one plugs into that spot, slides back in place onto that same rack. 10 mil bolt goes back on and you are ready to tune that system. It is, especially in the SUVs where it's just a simple side panel that drops down to access that. We were at Knowledge Fest a couple of years ago. And actually did that exact hot swap. So we gave everybody the opportunity. Here's what the factory hi-fi system looks like. 30 seconds later, that amp is out. The new one is in. Now take a listen. And you could hear the upgrade and the transition that was possible, even retaining all the factory speakers in the car, just by a simple amplifier swap. And the difference is not subtle.
I totally encourage dealers all the time. If you can set it up in a way that you can get your customer in the vehicle and show them the with and without, man, that'll increase your sales closing ratio 5-fold right there and then.
Absolutely. It's so hard to sit down and try and sell DSP technology based on the merits of the feature set, and it does. These different crossovers and this many EQs. Nobody cares.
They don't mean
what they're looking for is the end result. They don't come in asking you for 30 bands of equalization. They come in asking for better sound, and if you can show them the solution, and it's within reason in terms of their budget, there's now zero question of the best way to get after it and get it done. It's why we even encourage guys talking to their dealerships, especially with the state of the world right now in electronics, where we work really closely with one of our Mercedes dealers here not too far from us, where they've got GLCs that they're struggling to sell because they are fully loaded with every option under the sun except Burmester Audio. And when somebody's spending $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 on an SUV and they are getting 2 4-inch speakers and a little 7-inch woofer in the firewall, it's not really the experience they're used to, especially when they're trading in a car towards it. They're 2 or 3-year-old other Mercedes that had that in there. So being able to take these options and show them that through plugging into the system, without modifying the harnessing, without modifying the functionality of the car, we can give them this kind of experience, and you can show that very quickly to these guys. There's no coming back from it once they've seen the light.
Right, and the business opportunities are there. Last question: the DSPs and the match lineup are ACO?
Yes. Yeah. Other than our PP62, our little baby guy.
Okay, other than the baby guy, but that means let's not forget that new conductor controller is also compatible with these match units.
Absolutely. So we've got where we're dealing with these cars where some of these audio systems might be a little trickier to deal with, we can still add things like master volume or sub-level control to it. If we're dealing with vehicles that have preamps and we're running Toslink in, we have rear attenuation built in so we can retain fader type controls with those kinds of systems. One of the other really cool aspects is, other than the M5.4, the really physically the little one, but these guys here have those input cards available. We had touched a little bit on the MEC analog of adding 2 more channels of high level input to these guys. That same slot is actually capable of adding either a high resolution USB direct input or a high definition Bluetooth input, aptX HD compatible. So you can actually go through and add more sources to them. So again, we go back to talking about BMWs. They didn't introduce Bluetooth audio streaming until about 2013, 2014. So everything before that, almost a decade worth of BMWs, did not have Bluetooth audio streaming. Well, now when we're upgrading his audio system, we can add that connectivity right in there at the same time. So we can give him Bluetooth streaming, or if he's got an Estelle and Kearns player or a FiO or anything like that, he can run that through USB straight into his new audio system and bypass any of the factory DSP processing that's in place. We even look to a lot of that kind of stuff in classic cars, old pickups and hot rods and all that kind of stuff, where we don't have a radio to work with. Client doesn't want to cut the dash, that kind of stuff. Now we can go through and we can add something like an UP10 where we can do front two-way speaker system, we can do center channel, we can do rears, we can take those 2 high power channels on a dual 2-ohm woofer that's tucked in the back somewhere and give these guys a killer audio system. But through that Bluetooth direct input, now he doesn't have to worry about a source in the dash. He can get in, his phone will auto connect, he can set his playlist off, and then through the conductor, not only control volume, but also have basic control over the device as well. That conductor has the ability to track forward, track back, play, pause, and do volume all over Bluetooth. So that phone, once he starts his playlist, it gets tucked in his pocket, doesn't come back out again for all of his Sunday afternoon drive or until he's ready to leave the show and shine.
There he is.
We've done that all without modifying, without compromising the integrity of the vehicle or adding a bunch of stuff that just doesn't look like it belongs in a classic car.
For clarity purposes, all the amplifiers come with the Molex and universal leads if you want to run high level in. That's in the box, correct?
Correct, yeah. All of the amplifiers are going to come with what's called the system connector on the side here. So the system connector is this main chunk that's 4 channels in, 4 channels out of high level. The harnessing can have power depending on the application built into them. So if you're running something like the little M5.4, you can feed that straight away. You can use these in a totally universal application. Even if there's not a harness available, these can still be tied into absolutely any vehicle through just a traditional high-level interface. And we still use these guys a lot because of how advanced they are, but the footprint size is there's a lot of cases we'll use these with an aftermarket radio still. So we do a lot of Porsche business, 997, 911s, and then 987 Caymans and Boxsters, where the client has come in looking for better connectivity. They want to put a new head unit in the car. They want their CarPlay because the truck has it, and the family SUV has it, but he wants that in his toy car as well. So they come in looking for that, and then they've got an option. Do we spend the money to retain the Bose amplifier? Do we try and integrate into it, get all the parts to do that, and spend that money, or do we take that and put it towards actually upgrading his performance at the same time? So at a minimum, if we retain that Bose amplifier, we're losing fader control, we're giving him the connectivity, but we're keeping him in the same sound quality that he's had in the car for 15 years. Going this route, it actually allows us to increase overall output, increase sound quality dramatically, retain fader control, and these guys still fit in the same location as the factory amplifier. The cool part there is all your audio outputs are there as well. So we take this amplifier, it drives the 7-channel audio system in there. We've got our little line out here. So we've got an extra channel of preamp output that can feed the factory Bose subwoofer amplifier. All we need to run is from the radio to the amplifier for signal. We get to use the factory power and ground at that location as well. And then we put the factory cover back over top of it all. So nobody knows that any change has been made until they turn the system on and his CarPlay automatically connects and the tunes come to life like he's never heard in that car before. And you've pushed the drive and the enjoyment of his toy car when he gets that thing out just goes absolutely over the moon, and you've just changed the whole dynamic of everything for him.
If you're looking for more information on everything we covered today, especially the new UP8, check out audiotech-fisher.com. That's kind of like the mothership website where you can see all the products from Audiotech Fisher. Make sure you click on the Match tab, and it'll kind of open up a new menu for you to check that out. And if you're a dealer in North America, that's right, North America, doesn't matter if you're in Canada or in the US, get a hold of Chris and his team at msc-america.com. Chris, this has been super fun. Love that new amplifier. Love the solutions that this provides. And it's an incredible opportunity for dealers to kind of get in on something that the tools are there, and Match is making it happen.
We're super excited, especially the new UP8 is going to be, like I said, the UP7 was a big deal. This is one more. So it's always going to be a good thing.
As usual, thanks for coming in. This is the DSP Cowboy, Chris Van Ryn. Take care, sir.
Thanks, Ben.
Win a free Kenwood Dual Motorsports camera. That's the contest we have going on right now on Facebook. It's a collaboration with JVC Kenwood Canada. We're targeting Canadian dealers to sign up for free and win this brand new dual camera recording system valued at $700. You can use it on your ATV, UTV, snowmobile, boat, whatever you want. It's a wicked contest. Enter for free. Check out this contest right on our Facebook page, CMA Networks. Now, if you're looking for more information on Match products or Audio Tech Fisher products or OEM integration for that matter, you want to keep it locked on our website. CMAconnected.com is where it's at. You can search for your favorite brand by category or by your favorite trainer. DSP Cowboy himself has a profile page. Check it out, Chris Van Rye on CMA Networks. Thanks for tuning in to the CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
Stop it. Yo, roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?